Praise be Jesus and Mary. Brothers and sisters, today we celebrate the feast of the dedication of the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi. It was Pope Gregory IX who laid the cornerstone to this magnificent church in honor of St. Francis in the day after the saint's canonization in Assisi in 1228, and was a project of Friar Elias. Pope Innocent IV solemnly consecrated the church on May 25, 1253, and the remains of our Seraphic Father were taken in solemn procession from the chapel of St. George to this church on May 25, 1230. And that's why we are celebrating today the feast of this Basilica, because it is the day where the body of St. Francis was placed in the church, in this church. On March 25, 1754, Pope Benedict XIV raised the Patriarchal Basilica to the dignity of a papal chapel. And as we celebrate this feast, we will read some of the beautiful words of Pope Benedict XIV in the Apostolic Constitution Fidelis Dominus. And this was the Pope's word. We clearly see this promise fulfilled in the exaltation of St. Francis. While on earth, it was his constant endeavor to be held in low esteem by himself and by others. Through the unalterable decision of the Church, he has already been honored and venerated for centuries with highest praise throughout the world, as one reigning in heaven among God's friends. In body, Francis never ceased to carry about the dying of Christ. At his death, that body was made resplendent with extraordinary signs and marvels from heaven. It was so venerated by the devotion of the people that his sepulchre became more glorious than the pretentious monuments of powerful worldlings. And then, as we said, following the example of so many of our predecessors, we too have been willingly led to add to the splendor and honor of this church. This is the chief reason that motivated us. We concluded that the more the Apostolic See honored the memory of St. Francis, the more could the Roman Church hope for greater protection through his intercession. Therefore, by means of this, our Constitution, valid in perpetuity, we raise the aforesaid Church to the dignity of a patriarchal basilica and papal chapel. And so, my brothers and sisters, the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi is called the Mater Ecclesiae of all the Franciscan churches. Yun yung sabi nga, Mother Church ng mga Franciscan, ang Basilica of St. Francis. Hindi po yung Porciuncula. It is not the Porciuncula, but the Basilica of St. Francis. And remember po, iba yung Basilica ni St. Francis, iba rin yung Basilica ng Our Lady of the Angels, or where the Porciuncula is. Magkaibang church po sila, no? Kung pupunta ka ng Assisi, mas madaling mapuntahan yung Our Lady of the Angels kaysa sa Basilica. Why? Because ang Saint Mary of the Angels is halos malapit lang sa sabi nga sa road, no? Instead, ang Basilica of St. Francis, you still go to really at the heart of Assisi and go up in the mountain, no? And beautifully, the Basilica of St. Francis is not a little bit far from the Basilica of St. Clare. So, hindi naman po ganun walking distance. Ang ginagawa nga namin doon, every time we visit the Basilica of St. Francis, of course, we visit first the Basilica of St. Clare, where there is nandun po ngayon yung tinatawag na St. Damian Cross, yung ating, wala dito, yung cross ni St. Francis na nakipag-usap kay St. Francis, nandun po yun sa Basilica of St. Clare. At wala na po dun sa Church of St. Damian. So, as we celebrate this feast of the Basilica of St. Francis, we honor our Seraphic Father, and it is a challenge for us that as St. Francis loved the Church and loved the physical Church, so also all the disciples of our Seraphic Father love the Church as the house of prayer, and love the Church as its, sabi nga, its members, the Pope, the priest, the Cardinal. Let us love it and have devotion and to pray for our churches. Praise be Jesus and Mary. Ave Maria. If you like this video, subscribe and share. Ave Maria.